The clutch player by WNBA fans, and she was drafted to the W in 2022 with the Indiana Fever in the first round as the sixth pick. I'm talking about professional basketball player Lexie.
It's pretty obvious. We have people filling the stands. We have people cheering. We have people so excited for the individual success of the teams, but also the league as well as players. So there's so many more eyes on the game.
Lexie Hull was on the edge of disappearing from the WNBA spotlight completely. By the time the 2024 season tipped off, people had almost forgotten she was the sixth overall pick back in 2022, a player who once dominated at Stanford, raised trophies, and walked with the confidence of a franchise cornerstone. But under former coach Christie's sides, her story turned dark. Instead of minutes, she collected splinters, buried at the end of the bench. As other role players leapfrogged her, whispers spread fast. Was Hull ever going to live up to the hype, or was she doomed to be remembered as just another draft bust gathering dust?
Beginning of the season, my playing time definitely looked different than it did at the end. So trusting that, I was staying ready, putting in the work so that when I did get the minutes out on the court, that I could take full advantage of them. So I was just really proud of myself for trusting the process and staying.
Then the earthquake hit. Caitlin Clark, a once-in-a-generation talent whose arrival didn't just shift Indiana's lineup, it tore up the blueprint and rewrote the entire DNA of the franchise. Her game wasn't just exciting, it was electricity laced in sneakers. Clark didn't only score, she pulled gravity itself. The second she set foot in Indiana, the Fever suddenly had direction, fire, and belief. And for Lexie Hull, it wasn't just a teammate walking through the door, it was a lifeline. Fans saw the shift, but Lexie herself recently told the real story. In interviews with She's 4 Sports and the Dunker Spot, she didn't hold back. She exposed what really went down in that locker room, how Clark's presence flipped her career arc, and how Indiana transformed from a stumbling mess into one of the most compelling stories in basketball. This is bigger than one player's revival. It's a saga of redemption, leadership, and a culture shift that could define the Fever's entire future.
Previous interview, you talked about struggling throughout the season. So what changed and how are you able to turn the page so that the end of the season went a lot better?
Lexie. The early months of 2024 were nothing short of brutal for Lexie Hull. Despite her college glory and top 6 draft status, she couldn't even sniff the regular rotation. Imagine the sting. Katie Lou Samuelson, Christy Wallace, players with half her ceiling, stealing her minutes while Hull sat stranded on the bench with nothing but a towel draped across her shoulders. From star at Stanford to invisible in Indiana, the drop-off was crushing, a mental hit just as heavy as any physical battle. And it wasn't just Hull who was suffering. The entire Fever squad was spiraling into disaster. They opened the season 1-8, a nightmare start so ugly that fans in Indy were straight up begging for answers. But none came. Headlines ripped into the team. Poor rotations, lazy defense, zero chemistry.
Basketball in your genes. Your grandfather played basketball, your dad, and you have a twin sister who you played basketball with growing up. What was it like growing up in that family dynamic?
Well, we have a super competitive family, and having my dad play basketball collegiately, knew that basketball was going to be put in my hands at an early age. But my parents were, super excited about having us try every sport imaginable. So yeah, we grew up, my sister and I, playing.
The locker room was drowning in pressure, and Lexie, stuck in limbo on the sideline, had to fight her own demons while watching the ship sink in real time. But here's where her story gets wild. Hull refused to let the whispers bury her. She locked in on the grind, slicing up her cuts, polishing that jumper, and staying sharp for even the smallest crack of opportunity. And through it all, she leaned on the rare teammates who still believed in her when the stat sheets didn't. That belief became her gasoline. Then the shift. Caitlin Clark walked in and flipped the script overnight. Suddenly, the lights came back on, practices had juice again, and Indiana wasn't the league's punchline anymore. It was the hottest ticket in basketball. Clark brought edge, urgency, and a fearless will to compete, and she demanded everyone else rise to that same standard. As Hull herself put it with a laugh, "We play against guys in practice, and if they're not winning, Caitlin's going to do everything she can to make sure they're competing. That isn't just energy, that's transformation."
I think it was important to get to know her off the court because I do think that, connections, getting to know people really play a part in the success of teams.
Clark brought more than star power. She showed up with a basketball brain wired like it was running on fast forward. She read defenses like an NFL quarterback, threading passes into angles nobody else even saw. For Hull, it was a revelation. Suddenly, she was wide open, catching passes in scoring spots she'd never touched before. "She's making passes I didn't think were possible," Hull admitted. Clark's gravity yanked defenders like a magnet, and her vision shredded defenses wide open. The Fever's offense wasn't stuck in quicksand anymore. It was alive. It was humming. It was dangerous. But it wasn't just about the highlights. Clark's fire spread like wildfire through that locker room. Her competitiveness infected everyone. Players who once doubted themselves suddenly carried that same edge, convinced they could run with anyone in the league. The rookie didn't just bring buckets, she brought belief. And for Hull, that was everything.
My role is just getting to the open spots, and we have such a good offense that people find the open person. So to be that open person, you get excited. You get excited for the opportunity to shoot and score and be part of the momentum.
Clark's maturity hit the team instantly. Her leadership wasn't talk. It was felt in every drill, every possession, lifting morale and execution in one brutal swoop. And soon, the results started rolling in. Indiana began to find rhythm, evolving into a cohesive, dangerous offense. Hull herself admitted, "The game becomes so much more fun when you know you're cutting with a real chance to make a play." Clark gave her that chance, not just as a star, but as a full-blown game changer who altered her teammates' careers in real time. But the big question still loomed. Was this jolt of energy enough to flip Indiana's season upside down? The answer would only be revealed in the grind of the coming weeks. What stood out most is this. The real shift didn't happen under the spotlight. It wasn't in front of cameras or under packed arenas. It happened in the shadows, inside those closed-door practices where the battles got bloody competitive. Hull revealed those sessions weren't just drills anymore. They were wars. Scrimmages turned savage because Clark demanded it. If a play broke down, she wasn't letting it slide. She forced the team to fix it right then and there.
It's really fun because they garner so much attention, obviously, from the other team's defense. So then it allows the other players, me included, to make cuts, make reads, and they're really good at finding, those openings and giving the ball up when it's needed and finding the better shot. So it's really fun, and I feel really lucky to get to play.
No excuses, no shortcuts. Her fire raised the standard, and the rest of the roster either leveled up or got left behind. Coaches noticed the difference immediately. Practices that used to drag suddenly had bite, and from that grind, a real team identity was being born. Hull dove headfirst into the storm, sharpening every cut, chasing perfection with her jumper, and cleaning up the tiny details that separate rotation fillers from real threats. "During the Olympic break, we had a full month of practice," she explained. "Seeing those shooting percentages climb gave me the belief I needed. That work in the dark pays off in the light." By the second half of the season, Hull wasn't some forgotten bench body anymore. She had earned a real role in Indiana's offense. And none of this happens without Caitlin Clark reshaping the floor.
I definitely got passes and tried to finish when I wasn't expecting to get the ball. So now it's okay, every cut I have, every cut I make, every fast break I run, I have a real opportunity to get the ball, which definitely took me a second. And I think it really just took one of those to really get my head around oh, she's all the way down at the other end of the floor and she could still make the pass to me down at the block at this end. So, it's been.
Clark's ability to bend defenses was like handing Hull a free runway to attack. "Kelsey and Caitlin attract so much attention," Hull admitted, "that frees players like me to cut and find openings." And those openings turned into points. Hull's shooting percentages spiked, her confidence went through the roof, and suddenly she was making clutch plays when the pressure was at its peak. Indiana wasn't stumbling anymore. It was surging like a team with something to prove. As the Fever stacked win after win, the chemistry was impossible to ignore. "We never turned on each other," Hull explained. "That unity, that mindset, it's what pulled them through the brutal stretches, and fans saw it too. Arenas that once looked half-empty suddenly turned into madhouses, packed wall to wall, while social media exploded with clips, praise, and rallying cries for this fiery new Fever squad." Hull described the adrenaline of those nights at home. Playing in front of a sold-out crowd gave the team a rush they hadn't felt in years. It's hard to even put into words how much it meant, she admitted.
So fun to be able to know that you're not just cutting to cut, knowing that you're cutting with the possibility of like actually making a really cool play. So that makes it that much more worthwhile.
Indianapolis, once desperate for a winner, was finally buzzing again. The city had its heartbeat back. But this wasn't just a comeback story, it was a statement. With Clark orchestrating the floor and Hull blossoming into her role, the Fever weren't just scratching at a playoff berth. They were rewriting the entire ceiling of what this franchise could become. The only looming question was simple but chilling. How far could this group really go? And how long could they keep that chemistry alive under suffocating expectations? The rise of Indiana was dramatic, almost cinematic. Players like Hull suddenly found themselves living a brand new reality. Quick errands in the city turned into autograph sessions at the grocery store. Faces that were once anonymous in Indianapolis were now plastered across timelines and trending hashtags.
What is it like playing off of Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston?
I mean, they make my job really easy, right? It's awesome. And it's really cool to see all of them just grow, not only from this year, but playing 3 years with Kelsey, 2 years with Aaliyah. They're so impressive.
It was thrilling, but also overwhelming, because fame, as Hull quickly learned, cuts both ways. Every game became dissected online. Every loss brought a tidal wave of criticism, and every win carried its own crushing pressure. Stardom wasn't just a reward. It was a burden she had to carry night after night. Social media quickly turned into both a blessing and a curse for Hull. She admitted the nonstop feedback could sometimes fire her up, but after tough losses, it hit like a gut punch.
The game at a bigger scale, obviously with the platform that she's created for herself, and then that's transitioned to the game. It's huge. And I think like for me, especially as a point guard and as someone that's delivering a lot of the passes that lead to shots, like if I miss, she's definitely going to say like, you got the next one. Like I can count on her for keeping me like confident and positive. So yeah, I think that shows the player that she is and the leader she is as a point guard.
Scrolling through comments was a brutal reminder of just how heavy the spotlight had become. It's part of the job, but it's not easy, she confessed, opening a raw window into the emotional toll that stardom can bring. Through it all, the Fever leaned on each other. Their locker room wasn't just a spot for X's and O's anymore. It became a sanctuary, a safe zone where growth, resilience, and camaraderie mattered more than the noise outside. That culture, built on accountability and real trust, gave the team the backbone it needed to survive a season that tested everyone to the core. From being branded a disaster franchise to becoming one of the most talked about teams in basketball.
Really awesome to get to know her as well because, she's a great person, but you have all these expectations put on her and our team has put on her and fans have put on her. So to see her kind of be so mature in that transition, it's been really awesome. And I'm just really proud to, have her on the team. And
the Fever showed the world that unity and resilience can flip an entire script. And Hull's personal resurgence embodied that lesson. Her patience, her grind, her readiness to seize the moment, it all poured gasoline on Indiana's turnaround. But she's the first to admit Caitlin Clark was the true catalyst. She's not just a star player. She's a force who makes everyone around her better, Hull said. And she wasn't lying. Clark didn't just score. She lifted the entire franchise on the court and off it.
Never had a history-making year. What was that like for you to be a part of that?
I'm really grateful for the opportunity to not only play in the WNBA, but to be on a team like the Indiana Fever. I've seen so much growth, not only on the team side, how we're performing on the court, but also the growth in fans. I mean, on the road, it felt like home games. We're playing in sold-out arenas that we have not played in the last 2 years before that. So, it's just really exciting.
Indiana's rise wasn't just about racking up wins. It was about building an identity. Sold-out crowds, a buzzing fan base, and a culture that demanded accountability over excuses laid the foundation for something bigger. Long-term success. As Hull put it best, we're not just playing for ourselves. But with every surge in momentum came the weight of expectation. The Fever weren't sneaking up on anyone anymore. They were the story of the league, and that target on their backs grew bigger every night. Rivals circled them on the calendar, hunting for a chance to knock off the Caitlin Clark show and expose Indiana as a flash in the pan. For Hull, that spotlight cut deep. She went from being overlooked to being scouted, every cut and jumper dissected in film rooms across the league.
One thing that our coaches did during that break, I mean, we had a full month of practice pretty much during the Olympic break, and they would put up every day after practice our shooting percentages from 2s and 3s during drills, during scrimmages, during everything. And I think that helped me because, some people were probably like, it's so annoying, whatever, but I personally like.
Suddenly, the pressure wasn't just about surviving in the WNBA. It was about proving, night after night, that she belonged in the spotlight she once feared she'd never touch again. And make no mistake, the Fever felt that strain too. Opponents cranked up the physicality, arenas turned hostile, and every misstep was amplified under the brightest lights. The same crowds that cheered their rise now demanded more. Wins weren't just celebrated anymore. They were expected. This was the new reality for Indiana. No more hiding in the shadows, no more excuses. For Hull and her teammates, the climb had been hard, but the real challenge was just beginning.
Numbers don't lie, unfortunately, and they're very drastic. My first 2 years, I was just so upset because I was putting in so much work, and my shooting percentages, I would granted get like 1 or 2 at the max, 3s a game. So it's hard to be super efficient when the pressure is really on for those couple shots. But the numbers don't lie. So it really allows you to look at improvements and really shoot for goals and keep yourself like accountable.
Sustaining success while carrying the crushing weight of a city, a franchise, and a fan base desperate for redemption. The backlash came just as fast as the hype. Other teams weren't about to sit back and let Indiana waltz into the spotlight. Every matchup against the Fever turned into a statement game. Rivals came swinging, fouls got nastier, and Clark especially became the league's biggest target overnight. If she so much as touched the ball, defenders were draped all over her, daring refs to swallow their whistles. For Hull, this meant stepping into uncharted territory. Suddenly, she wasn't just a role player catching defenders asleep. She was being scouted, bumped, and tested at every cut. Opponents wanted to see if she could handle the heat or crumble under it. And for a player once labeled a draft bust, those moments were everything. Each bucket felt like defiance, each stop a middle finger to the doubters. But the intensity wasn't confined to the court. Online, debates turned vicious.
You and Erica Wheeler started swapping outfits, so where did that idea come from?
Our styles are so drastically different. So we were just joking, like, I wonder what it would look like if you could pull it off. And the first outfit was something so outside of what I would have ever picked out of my closet. And they're like, that's not going to look good on me. I'm like, all right, let's try. So then I tried it on and everyone was like, you pull it off, you pull it off. So then it just became part of the pregame tradition. And it's a really fun, lighthearted way to just, get us in the mood.
Every Fever highlight sparked arguments. Every Clark assist fueled rival fan bases who swore Indiana was overhyped. Hull's name was dragged into it too. Some praised her resurgence, while others dismissed it as riding Clark's coattails. The noise was deafening, and the pressure only grew heavier. Yet inside the Fever locker room, the energy was different. They thrived on the hate, feeding off the doubt, treating every hostile arena like fuel. This wasn't just basketball anymore. It was survival in the fire, and Indiana was proving it could take the punches and keep swinging. The real turning point came when Hull finally delivered her breakout game, the kind of performance that shut down all the whispers about whether she belonged. In a tight matchup against one of the league's top defenses, she didn't just blend in, she stamped her name on the night.
It's moving in a good direction. I think that it's because it's more competitive and there's more eyes on it. The pool of coaches that we can choose from, I think, will only get bigger and bigger. I think we're going to have great coaches coming up, and just excited to see, what those eras look like. Like, it's unpredictable at this point, but excited.
Knocking down threes, slicing through lanes, and locking up on the other end, Hull showed she could thrive under the brightest lights. That game wasn't just about points. It was about presence. Every shot she hit felt like a dagger at the critics who once called her a draft bust. Social media lit up, not with doubt, but with respect. Clips of Hull dropping buckets and pumping her fists went viral, and fans who barely knew her name months earlier were suddenly chanting it in packed arenas. For Indiana, it was validation. Clark was still the engine, but Hull's eruption gave the Fever another weapon: Proof this wasn't a one-woman show. The chemistry was real, the depth was real, and the rise wasn't slowing down. And for Hull personally, it was redemption in real time. She went from towel duty on the bench to standing shoulder to shoulder with stars, rewriting her own reputation one possession at a time. From that night forward, she wasn't just surviving in the WNBA.
It's like sick that we had lost so many games and also feeling like we were better than that.
She was thriving in it. We're playing for something bigger. With Clark leading the charge, Hull thriving, and talents like Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell ready to dominate, the Fever aren't just contenders anymore. They're a powerhouse in the making. Indiana has already proven it can weather storms, silence doubters, and turn chaos into momentum. But now comes the ultimate question. Can this squad take the leap from being contenders to joining the true WNBA elite?
The basketball part of the transition is really tough. Everybody out on the court was one of the best players on their college teams, definitely the best player likely from their high school team. So it's just this mishmash of the best basketball players, and then you're playing against people that have been there for years and years.
Only time will reveal that answer. But one thing is clear. The Fever's rise has changed the game, and the league is watching every step. So what do you think? Are the Fever ready to cement themselves as one of the great teams in WNBA history? Show your support for Lexie in the comments by dropping Lexie Show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.